Since the late 1940s, through the Woodstock era, and to today, Watkins Glen has been synonymous with sports car racing. Certified legends like Dan Gurney, once driver, now team owner. Derek Bell, who makes his 100th IMSA start today. And two young fellows with famous racing names, P.J. Jones and Juan Fangio, lead the field. But some observers think today an American-made car could steal the thunder from the foreign makes at Watkins Glen. From Watkins Glen International in upstate New York, TNN Motorsports presents the 10th Camel Continental. In the picturesque Finger Lakes region of upstate New York, it's a beautiful sunny day for world-class sports car racing at Watkins Glen. Hello everybody, I'm Mike Joy, and with me a former winner of this event and former IMSA champion Dorsey Schrader. A very picturesque but a deceivingly difficult racetrack, Watkins Glen.
Well, it's a real fast racetrack and we got a lot of cars on it and a lot of different speeds, Mike.
They'll start nearly 60 cars today, and as Dorsey says, there are 7 different classes of cars. And the top speed differential from the front of the pack to the back is more than 50 miles per hour. Going to make it a real strategy race on every lap at every corner.
Well, you got to have patience, no doubt about it. There's some blind areas there, over 130 miles an hour. You don't want to catch somebody going 70 miles an hour slower than you.
No, it'll be an interesting race to be sure. Toyota has set the pace this season. They have won every race, seem poised for a second straight championship. But as we said, perhaps an American car can sneak to the front of the field. Let's find out and go first down to the front of the starting grid with Glenn Jarrett.
Well, thanks, Mike. Juan Fangio has qualified on the outside of the front row here. He had an engine problem in qualifying. They have put a new engine in the car. He's ready to go. Juan, this place has been awfully good to you. You got to be looking forward to today's race.
Yeah, definitely, and I think it's great to come back to the old track. The only thing is the traffic. The traffic, I think, will be a big factor during the race.
What about your teammate, P.J. Jones? You guys have put on a couple of good shows this year.
Yeah, definitely. I think that was very good until this point, and so now we are getting closer to the end of the season, so it's very important to make points and think about the championship.
Okay, best of luck to you. Now let's go down to Randy Pemberton.
Well, Tommy Kendall is sitting in the Roush Racing Ford Mustang. He's got a car that can win here today. Tommy, you've had some good days here, and you've had some bad days. What about today?
I've had more good ones than bad ones, fortunately, and this Mustang Cobra has really been running flawless. Other than my drink bottle pumping itself out of my seat, I'm sitting in a big puddle right now. Other than that, we're looking pretty good.
Okay, good luck today. Mike Joy, back up to you.
Thanks, Randy. One of the biggest variables in this type of racing, Dorsey, is the track itself. Of the 11 corners, no two are really similar.
No, you're right, Mike. And Watkins Glen is a high-speed circuit. That normally favors a heavily sprung car. But there's some bumps around here, and the car doesn't like to ride over it. You have to soften it up. Somewhere in there's a compromise that makes the car comfortable for all.
Well, let's have a look at this 11-turn circuit as we ride with one of the Toyotas that sits on the front row. Dorsey will take us for a lap around Watkins Glen International.
The start-finish straightaway for a GTP car here at Watkins Glen is 160 miles per hour approaching turn 1, a downhill right-hand corner leading to the S's. Very important to get through turn 1 quick because the S's absolutely flat out leading onto the back straightaway. Now this is the fastest the GTP car will go, approaching 190 miles per hour as it heads down here toward what's called the inner loop. A series of corners. The inner loop is designed to slow the cars before they reach the outer loop. A little rough through here as the car gets through here. Good exit speed brings you to the next corner, the outer loop. It's a downhill corner, very, very fast. Over 130 miles per hour right here as the car plummets down the hill to what we call the boot. It goes down through turn 6 all the way to turn 7. That's straight downhill, but then right up the hill, you're climbing a mountain as you head toward turn 8, and you're going to go to turn 9. Now turn 9, a very rough corner. We see a lot of accidents happen right here. You turn left across turn 9, there's a big bump right about where the car is now. You're going across a bridge, and we see cars get in trouble right there at the guardrail. Turn 10, a wicked fast left-hand corner leading to turn 11, the corner onto the start-finish straight.
It's a fast, fun course to race on, and we'll be back with the Camel Continental on the Nashville Network right after these messages. TNN Motorsports exclusive coverage of the 10th Camel Continental at Watkins Glen. is brought to you by Oldsmobile. Let's flash you through the starting grid for the Camel Continental. The Toyotas have the front row, P.J. Jones and Juan Fangio. There's a Porsche in row 2, along with a Momo Nissan. 2 Nissan GTS cars in row number 3. Back in the 4th row, the Ford Mustang of Kendall and the GTP Chevy. An Olds Cutlass and an Acura Spice Camel Lights car. Then it's the Mazda Kudzu and Olds Cutlass at Genelosi. A Nissan and a Mazda in the next row, then a Cutlass and an Acura Spice. An Olds Cutlass and a Buick Kudzu. As we look further back in row 10, cars from the GTO and Camel Lights divisions fill up the field. We have a look back through a lot of privateer entries and drivers looking perhaps to move up into the larger categories of Camel GT racing. And the V cars listed are invitational GT cars, a very special class added to some of the Camel GT events, and the World Sports Car category cars, the look of IMSA's future for 1994 and beyond. In all, there are 55 cars scheduled to start this race. The field approaches turn number 10. One more corner and they'll be formed up for the start. Everybody getting lined up here for the drop of the green flag. 2 hours and 45 minutes. The distance. There are the Toyotas together on the front row as the rest of the field struggles to gain ground, and green is on. And the front 3 cars rocket. It's the Yost Porsche way on the outside to turn number 1. But that's not the passing lane, is it?
No, he had a look anyway. I think it was just more intent than anything else. I don't think he thought he could pass there, but he just popped out there and protected the area.
Manuel Reuter of Mainz, Germany, in the Yost Porsche, running in 3rd behind the 2 Toyotas. P.J. Jones in 98, Fangio in 99.
Pass for the lead already, so these guys are not under team orders. They're going to race each other.
And P.J. Jones, the pole sitter, comes through the inner loop at the end of the back straightaway and through turn 5, a downhill carousel type of corner that will head them off into the new section of the course that these cars are racing for the first time, down into the boot, or not the first time here, but the first time on this course with the inner loop added. Down the hill through 6. And into the toe of the boot, turn 7, where the hillside catches the cars. There's a battle for 5th place.
In between 2 different classes, the car on the left is a GTP car. That number 1 car is the series defending champion in GTS, the factory hot rods that we will be watching. It's a good battle going on right there for 5th overall. Back to the GTS cars, and that is Wayne Taylor in the famous Amos Spice car, and that's a GTP car. So that's 2 different classes fighting for the same piece of road right there, and we're going to see that all day long.
Interesting that these Camel Light cars and some of the GT cars are faster through the slower corners, not as quick down the straightaway as some of these Grand Touring Supreme cars, such as the Nissans, the Oldsmobiles, and the Ford Mustang.
You're right, Mike. Right now, top speed goes to the GTS cars. The little sedan-looking cars are faster on the top end than the GTP cars, and the reason is they don't have as much downforce. So the GTP cars, they suck themselves to a stop, more or less. They can only go so fast. The big GTS cars, as we see Tommy Kendall now coming into the fray, they just keep accelerating all the way up to almost 190 mph approaching the inner loop.
There's Kendall in the Ford Mustang, that Stars and Stripes car. And here, Camel Lights battle. These cars are much like the prototype, the Lights, but with smaller power plants.
And we see Paul Genelosi in the other Oldsmobile right in the middle of the lead 2 in Camel Lights. This is what makes it hard. The Oldsmobile is much faster in the straightaway than either of those Camel Lights cars, but the Lights cars are a lot quicker in the corner. So right now they're hurting each other's overall speed by running together like that.
That black car is Genelosi's Oldsmobile, with the Acura just behind and about to take advantage down the hill.
But you see, as the V8 horsepower comes in, I think he just let that happen. Actually, I think Paul let Parker Johnstone get by right there, so it quit messing the 2 of them up.
Johnstone moving up, looking for another spot. May find it here to the inside. Nope. Not turn 7. That's the toe of the boot.
And that is a pass for the lead in Camel Lights. As we see, Parker has worked inside now. It didn't work, but it was a good drive.
And Genelosi comes right back after him. That V8 power climbing the hill. As they take turn 8, a right-hander that takes you downhill and then climbs straight back up for turn 9. At the front of the pack, as expected, Dan Gurney's All-American Racers team. The Toyotas of P.J. Jones, 98, and Juan Fangio, the defending Camel GT champion, 99.
These guys have had it this way now for over 1 year. Every race by these two guys has been just like this. But as you can tell right now, here comes Juan or PJ going side by side up straight away for the inner loop. They're definitely racing with each other. There is no team orders, and they're tied for the points lead, Mike.
Fangio third on the Watkins Glen Camel GT win list. He has 2 victories here. And one of the lights cars, Jim Downing's Buick Kudzu, excuse me, the Bel-Ray Lubricants car.
Well, that's a shame for Jim Downing. You know, he invented that car, built it himself, and to be coming in this early, obviously not a planned stop for Jim.
The father of the Camel Lights class. So Toyota leads the Camel Continental, Fangio and Jones leading the Yost Porsche. Welcome back to Watkins Glen International at turn 5. Juan Fangio II, nephew of the great Argentine Formula One champion, and P.J. Jones, son of Indy 500 winner, Trans Am champion, and off-road and open-wheel great Parnelli Jones. Running in the second spot as Dan Gurney's team runs 1-2 here, but as they have done most of the season in Camel GT racing, but they are not under orders to finish in any order or even to run in formation, and they will battle each other just as hard as if they were driving competing makes of cars.
Well, you're right about that. They both want to win. They're tied for the series points championship for a driver. A lot of ego at stake there, but right now you can bet they're cat and mouse, and it's too early in the race to really get down to 10/10 racing. But you know, if one makes a mistake, the other's there to take advantage of it and bet on that as well.
Fangio sweeps around the Tommy Riggins car, taking advantage of the draft. Now ducks underneath one of the Ford Mustangs.
That's Les Lindley, used to be a Trans Am regular.
And that's opened up a bit of separation.
Yeah, that's what we talked about. The brakes, one gets in traffic and the brakes at the other. Oh, we got a pit stop by
PJ. Let's go to Glenn Jarrett.
Well, Mike, they're changing tires on the car. The front tires are off, and they're also changing rear tires, fueling the car up. This is definitely not a scheduled stop. I was going to talk to Dan Gurney, getting ready to. In fact, when PJ came in, we'll get a word with him and find out just exactly what went wrong.
So PJ goes roaring back down pit road, and that will move the Porsche of Manfred Reuter up to second spot. Gurney's crew looking over the tires that came off PJ's car. Glenn Jarrett is down in P.J. Jones pits with Dan Gurney.
Well, Dan, things looked like it was pretty much business as usual for a while there, but P.J. came in early. What went wrong?
He said that he had a vibration. Didn't know what it was. We changed the tires, and it appears to have gone away. We might have picked up something. It was hitting the brake rotor or something, brake caliper. Seems to be okay.
Right. Got to ask you a question. Do you sometimes cringe a little bit when the two of them are running so close together, so fast, and battling so hard, or you just enjoy it to see them run fast?
I enjoy it. So far, we've gotten away with it. So, you know, it's one of those tough calls. It's great training for those guys. I know that. And they're not backing off at all. So, although we know it's a long race here. It's 2 hours and 45 minutes, and we think it'll be stopped by the time, not the distance. Maybe they have something left.
I'm sure they do. Thanks, Dan. We'll probably talk to you later. Mike?
One of the all-time greats, Dan Gurney, as P.J. Jones moves past the Nissan of Jean-Piero Moretti and Derek Bell to go up into third position.
It was almost a diplomatic answer, wasn't it? I think he's worried.
Well, it's one of those answers like it's a great strategy in case it works. And so far it has. PJ's done a little Winston Cup racing in the Harry Melling car. Had a couple of starts.
I think that's the direction PJ is going to ultimately go. I think he'll go Winston Cup racing. I talked to him about that. He had the same problems I did when I first went to the Winston Cup Series, and that you get so used to these road race cars with their big brakes and their big tires and much grip. Every once in a while, one of those big stock cars would just slip out from under you, as it did with him in Michigan. He got in the fence a little bit, but he's learning. He's young enough. I think he could be a future star.
And this man, Juan Fangio, who knows where he might be headed Should he choose to leave the Camel GTP series, could it be Formula One like his famous uncle, world champion? There's a spin, the 84 car. Eduardo Dibos of Peru in a Mazda RX-7.
Could be high-centered, Mikey. It looks like the rear tires are up in the air a little bit, and that could bring out the first full course caution. I'm guaranteeing one thing, PJ hopes it does.
See if the corner workers can get to him and push him back onto the course once that area is clear. The car is hung up on the frame. So Fangio, might he go to Formula One or might he go IndyCar racing?
Well, you know, he could go either way. It's hard to say which way he will go, and that is our 5th place Porsche, Yost Porsche, coming into the pits, and it's too early for a scheduled pit stop, I'd say.
By far. And there's the 50 car spinning. The David Kisak Free Spirit Camaro, certainly a Free Spirit paint job.
Planet Hollywood is their sponsor, so I think that must have something to do with that paint job.
Not surprised. Juan Fangio leading in the Toyota. John Winters Porsche is second. P.J. Jones in the Toyota third over Jean-Piero Moretti's Nissan, and Wayne Taylor in the Spice. We'll be right back to Watkins Glen on TNN after this. In the Finger Lakes Winery, the Glenora Wine Cellar is a popular tourist destination over there, as they have a nice view of Lake Seneca from the vineyards. Lots to see and do up here in Schuyler County and the greater Finger Lakes area. P.J. Jones is rapidly gaining ground after an early pit stop for an undisclosed vibration, but Glenn Jarrett has the story.
And Gurney is timing P.J. right now, but you see this wrench he's holding in his hand? That's what caused the vibration on P.J.'s car. This thing was wedged in the brakes of the car. Where did you find this thing, Dan?
Well, it came out of the brake duct. So it must have been picked up off the track. I'm sure it didn't come out of one of those stock cars.
Do you know whose it is? There's an initial on it.
I didn't hear your question.
I said, do you know who the wrench belongs to? There is some lettering on it.
Oh, we're getting close. It's got his initials on here. HRM. His Royal Majesty.
Well, I imagine that they're going to be searching the pit road here for His Royal Majesty.
Yeah, NASCAR's Busch Grand National cars ran here yesterday, so if you're missing a wrench, call TNN in Nashville, Tennessee. We'll try to get it back to you.
Does anybody know what Harry Melling's middle initial is?
Is it R? Yeah. Might be. PJ dealing with traffic gets a little dust up there in the inner loop going by Ken Painter's Camaro as he charges back toward the front. 2 cars on pit road, the Yost Porsche, and here's Wayne Taylor in the Konica car, the Chevrolet car with the Spice chassis, the GTP car. And there is the Porsche, the Yost entry, both coming down pit road at the same time.
And in both cases, the door opened to the driver compartment, and that is not a good sign.
And now the engine cover off the Wayne Taylor car.
Yeah, they don't look like they're frantic about working on it, so that's also not a good sign. Usually indication that it could be a terminal problem.
Taylor's car getting buttoned back up. Also the 51 Oldsmobile on pit road. And work continues on the Yost car. Juan Fangio, defending Camel GT champion in the Toyota, continues to lead. Let's get out of Randy Pemberton.
Well, Hurley Haywood has climbed from his Porsche. What was the story, Hurley? You pitted twice. This time you got out of the car.
Something inside the transmission must have broken. It got jammed into 4th gear, and you know, they said if we kept, you could possibly drive the car around slowly in 4th gear, but they were afraid that the whole transmission would pack up and do a lot of damage, so we parked it.
Too bad this week.
Yep.
In GTS, Darren Brassfield in the Oldsmobile is now taking the lead in that class as he gets lapped by the number 7 Porsche, currently running in 2nd overall.
I'm really surprised. There's Darren all alone in the GTS car, and I would have suspected that all of those cars would be running right together. So he's got a big break in traffic or something to have pulled away like as much as he has there. I don't even see another GTS car around him. And I know all those cars were running together, the 2 Nissans and Darren and Tommy Kendall. Last we saw them, they were all in a pack. So something happened, let Darren get away.
Barrett's teammate Paul Gentilozzi is currently 2nd in class. Johnny O'Connell and Steve Millen, the Nissans, 3rd and 4th. Tommy Kendall in the Mustang is 5th in GTS.
These Oldsmobiles are wonderful cars. I co-drove this car down at the 24 Hours of Daytona and the 12 Hours at the Sebring. This thing has got a 6.5-liter aluminum block injected V8, putting out over 700 horsepower. It is the most wonderful driving car. I tell you, it just drives as easy with all that power. It's a wonderful car.
Here's P.J. Jones coming up to overlap Darren Brassfield, running one lap behind the overall race leaders, but leading in the GTS class. And you see how much Jones has gained on the second place car. That's the Porsche of John Winter. Reinhold Yost Porsche. And PJ is moving in on second place.
PJ had a hard time there with Brassfield down the straightaway. You saw they could run neck and neck. The Oldsmobile probably even faster than the Toyota, up into the point that they have to get on the brakes, of course, and then the GTP car, much lighter car, very much better braking car.
There's Winter entering the inner loop, and here comes P.J. Jones in search of second place. Still several seconds separating them. Is there any particular place on this course where the Toyota has an advantage on the Porsche?
Well, definitely cornering, no question about it. The Porsche probably has the top-end speed because IMSA has regulated the size of the turbocharger inlet on the Toyota because it was so dominant. So they slowed it up in the straightaway, but this car has so much ground effect, so much downforce, that it is a rocket through the corner. So it definitely is faster through all the corners in the Porsche.
Car gets such downforce, you'll see. Now here's Yost, the Yost car with John Winter. Look at the rear wing on PJ's Toyota. It's a biplane wing. There are two surfaces, two wing surfaces. The car gets such grip that in qualifying, they took the top wing off of Fangio's car, opting for top speed as opposed to more downforce. Try to get them a little more straightaway speed for qualifying.
Well, they realize they're suffering on the straightaway now that they've restricted their horsepower output. You know, taking that wing off reduces a lot of drag, aerodynamic drag, and the car runs better on top end.
See Johnny O'Connell back to speed here. Let's have a look and see what happened to him just a bit ago.
Well, he's been pulling away from that other pack of cars, so he's really flying. Oh, speaking of flying, I think he got on the throttle a little bit too early there, and he's done a big spin, hasn't hit anything, and I think, yeah, he's got it running. You see the flames coming out, so he's blipping the throttle. He'll continue on. Let's see if he can stay in the lead. I doubt it.
That's turn 9. Now that's where we saw him with that big cloud of smoke. Didn't realize at the time that he had spun. Trouble on the 71 car. Miroslav Jonak and Martin Gray. And the Spice Ford-powered car getting way off the racetrack but missing the tire wall. And apparently having trouble getting restarted. And here's P.J. Jones rolling along very slowly.
Not a good sign there. He is in trouble.
His teammate Juan Fangio scheduled for a pit stop this next time by.
We got it going again there, Mike. It looked like it was totally dead, and all of a sudden it refired. I don't know, maybe he went to a B-side ignition, and these guys have twin ignition. If you have a problem, you can go over to another set of ignition, and now it's running good again.
So brief bit of trouble for P.J. Jones. He hangs on to second position.
We have word that the Camel light car, we saw the 71 car, pulled off the track. It didn't spin off. It must have had an engine problem or something because it's pulled off on its own.
Here is Fangio in the pit lane, the defending Camel GT champion, looking for his third Watkins Glen victory. Will come to a halt. Glenn Jarrett is there.
Well, Mikey brings the car to a stop very quickly as Dorsey talks about those brakes really slow him down. This is a routine top stop, totally. 4 tires, fuel, clean the windshield. He'll be down and away. We're going to try to get a word with Dan Gurney after Juan gets out of the pits. He is down now. They are still fueling the car. That takes longer than changing the 4 tires. The car has refired. He'll pull away momentarily, and there he goes. Good pit stop. We'll try to find out what the problem on PJ's car was and report back to you.
Thanks, Glenn. Juan Fangio back in the race after his first pit stop. And here's P.J. Jones coming around turn number 1 as Fangio re-enters the course. Remember, P.J. made an early pit stop for a vibration that turned out to be a wrench bouncing around in the brake ducts. And the Toyotas are all but nose to tail once again.
Now, there's going to be a pit stop for PJ, obviously, because he had that pit stop early. He's out of sync on the fuel, and when that happens, they're going to be swapping the lead back and forth all day.
A lot of smoke from Parker Johnstone's car as he comes to pit road. The Camel Lights leading Acura goes up in the air. Now, wouldn't this be a bit earlier for a scheduled stop for them?
Well, you would think that it would be. I don't see anybody. Well, it looks like maybe now they're going to get into the engine cover, and that's not a good sign for Parker.
Yeah, the car was smoking pretty heavily as it came down pit road. They're going to fuel it first. Now attend to the difficulty. Manfred Reuter then in the Yost Porsche continues to hold in third position. Or check that, he has now taken the lead. He has yet to make a pit stop. The Momo Nissan of Jean-Pierre Moretti and Derek Bell starting his 100th IMSA race, climbing in. And here's Glenn.
Well, they make the driver change. Moretti's already out of the car. Now he helps Bell to get buckled up. That's one of his jobs, as we all know, is to help the other driver get set, get buckled into the car. The people told me this was just a routine stop, 4 tires. Again, fuel. It takes a little longer to fuel these cars. But they have the right front tires, the last one to go on now. So the only thing they're waiting on now is to finish fueling, and Derek is all buckled up, ready to take off. He was excited. He was anticipating getting in the car. Talked to him briefly before he got in. He was really up for this deal. He said he wanted to hurry up and get through so he could eat some of that cake, but now he stalls the car.
They gave him a cake for his 100th IMSA start. Derek, who first came to Watkins Glen in 1968 as a factory driver for Ferrari.
Well, what a wonderful moment for Derek. 100 IMSA starts. That's an accomplishment most people will never get to see.
There are the Toyotas going past as Bell exits pit road.
And they're right in the middle of the GTS battle. That's Tommy Kendall moving over to try to draft. I don't know what that. I think he just blocked. He did, in fact, block PJ. Here's the traffic problem we talked about. Watch the GTS cars. They'll out top end these 2 Toyotas.
And they get past the Porsche of Manfred Reuter and John Winter. Going nose to nose with the Oldsmobile down into the inner loop. And then out braking the Olds into that chicane type area. And Gentilozzi into the wall. The Lansing, Michigan engineer driver has smacked it hard.
Yep, that's not a good deal. You can already see the steam, which means he's gotten into the radiator, and he's going to try to get back to the pits for repairs. But if it's leaking, as I suspect it will be, we're going to have antifreeze on the track, and that's going to make things miserable. And that is at the toe of the boot, headed up the hill, and it's slippery enough there without any help from antifreeze.
Let's have another look, see if we can see what happened to Paul Gentilozzi, who was running in the top 5 in his class.
Well, he just got in there too deep. There's no question about it. He was backwards before he got into the camera's angle. And, of course, he should have been braking quite a ways back. That's Tommy Kendall, who was right behind him, is headed up the hill there. So he moves up a position, obviously. And look at the left front wheel, which is locked under the bodywork. He can't steer the car at all right now.
Probably can't see too well either with that nose piece up in the way. The Yost Porsche comes to the pit lane. Manfred Reuter will get out, and John Winter will climb aboard. Wipe of the windshield and fuel. Tire service already completed. The air jacks lowering the car. And fuel is gravity fed. They wait for that to be completed.
At the same time, the 48 car of Les Lindley, who's leading in GTO, has made a routine pit stop. He's come and gone at the same time. And this was also a routine pit stop, as they've just taken on fuel and are re-entering the racetrack.
P.J. Jones now moving up on Juan Fangio. The 2 Toyotas now well ahead of the pack. That the Porsche has made its pit stop, and so has the Derek Bell-driven Nissan. Lots of happy race fans and TNN watchers at Watkins Glen. We'll be right back. To that sound in the morning, just outside your window of a raging waterfall. Well, we mentioned Shader and Bob Earl, who are leading the Camel Lights. Let's go to the pits of the other contender in that class. Here's Randy Pemberton.
Well, Parker Johnstone, you're out of it. The Acura, did it give up on you? What happened?
Well, I tell you, this is when it's real disappointing. When you're having a real bad day at the track and something breaks, well, I mean, you feel bad, but not that bad. But when the Comtech Acura is working as well as it did today, we cut through all the GTS cars, stormed out, the car was working great. I think a 25-cent part decided not to cooperate with the rest of our multi-$100,000 racing machine, and unfortunately, we've won the last 5 races in a row, and sometimes you start looking over your shoulder, and I guess somebody just wasn't happy going that fast in the back of the car. Good luck, guys.
P.J. Jones completes his pit stop. He gets 4 fresh tires and fuel. Two of the Nissans at the front of the GTS category have crashed and hard. Steve Millen and Johnny O'Connell. Along with a third car, which we believe is Brent O'Neill. Number 25, there's O'Neill climbing out. Millen's car was already stopped. And O'Connell came flying through and apparently could not avoid the 2 crashed automobiles. There's the Shader and Earl Camel Lights car. This brings out a full course caution.
Very big accident. Steve Millen had got together with O'Neill. That's Johnny O'Connell. He's gotten himself over the guardrail now. That was a huge impact as O'Connell had nowhere to go. He T-boned the car of Steve Millen. We see that car on fire. All drivers out. That's Johnny O'Connell laying there being attended to.
Now this is coming over the infield access tunnel, the DeWitt Tunnel. And it is a very difficult location in that A, it's very narrow, and also as you climb the hill to that location, you come over a blind crest. You see as you come up the hill through that curve, O'Connell likely did not see the 2 cars until it was too late.
You're absolutely right, Mike. It's totally blind. That's coming across that bridge. As you come up there, that's where we saw before. It is blind there. He came up there and Millen's car was sitting in the middle of the track coming up out of the S's, nowhere to go. That's at well over 140 miles an hour, and now we have more trouble as P.J. Jones is off the track.
I think he ran over some of the debris from the accident because we saw him going right through the accident scene. Now that's Johnny O'Connell's car again. He climbed out of the car, jumped across the guardrail. The red flag is out. Cars are halted all around the course, but prior to the red flag, P.J. Jones was one of the cars that drove through the accident scene. He ran over a piece of debris and apparently cut down a tire so that the car has come to rest. Toyota technicians, P.J. Jones, and one of the track officials on hand here, trying to get him restarted. There is the front end of one of the Nissans.
That is the front end of Steve Millen's car, I believe, that has gotten trapped underneath the Toyota, and that made it impossible for PJ to steer that automobile.
We are under a red flag stoppage here at Watkins Glen. You're looking from turn 2 up through the S's, and just as the cars disappear out of sight around that blind corner at the top of the S's, it's where the incident happened that brought out the red flag. Let's show you a replay of what occurred here.
Well, that's Steve Millen in the number 1 car and Brent O'Neill. They've made contact. Steve's backing up. Here comes Johnny O'Connell, nowhere to go. Hits Millen's car at a ton. I mean, 140, 50 mile per hour hit right there. That's O'Connell going into the guardrail with the car on fire, just starting fire. Totally destroyed race car right there. As you see, it has blocked the track. We got a couple cars coming.
You'll see P.J. Jones come through here in a second as Brent O'Neill is the first to climb out of his car. There's the Leitzinger Nissan as O'Neill scrambles to safety.
It looks like Brent has got a leg problem. He's hurt his leg. He's going to go over and sit down. That's Bob Shader, Bob Earl car snaking its way through. Here is, in fact, Johnny O'Connell, who's got himself out of his car, and he's really taken a blow, too. He's coming over the guardrail to safety there. We still haven't seen Steve Millen in his car, the car that was sitting still that got broadsided at a huge impact.
And a close call for O'Connell getting over the guardrail. P.J. Jones went through there and caught some debris. His car came to a stop on the course with the nose of one of the Nissans underneath it. And let us correct, Steve Millen did not immediately climb from his car. It's being attended to by the course officials and workers at the scene. Let's have another look at what happened in the aftermath of this collision. It occurred at the top of the S's, climbing the hill. The entry to this corner is pretty blind. This collision has already occurred.
Boy, you know, Johnny just had nowhere to go. He came up there totally blind. Steve was backing up to try to continue on. He couldn't have avoided that accident. If he turned to the left, the car would have got loose on him and they would have hit side to side. Horrible impact right there as the 2 Nissans have hit it well over 100 mile per hour. That's the Bob Shader, Bob Earl car first through there. Camel Light car and the leader of Camel Lights.
And here's a close call that O'Connell had.
Yeah, that was debris that the Porsche ran over, but Johnny had to dive over the guardrail there. to avoid further problems.
So we'll be back to Watkins Glen International and the Camel Continental here on TNN right after these messages. It's a big Speedway Sunday on TNN tomorrow. NASCAR's Busch Grand National Series is on the Milwaukee Mile for the Haviland Formula 3 250. That's tomorrow live at 2 o'clock Eastern Time here on TNN. Then next weekend, double-barreled racing action from the New Hampshire International Speedway. Saturday, the Busch North cars and the modifieds, and Sunday, the Slick 5300, the first ever Winston Cup race on the New Hampshire International Speedway, Sunday, July 11th, 1 p.m. Eastern Time. Glenn Jarrett has made his way to the Toyota location back in the garage area. Glenn?
I'm standing with P.J. Jones, and P.J. things got pretty hairy out there. What happened to you?
Oh, I don't know. We just couldn't buy a brake today. I mean, it just seemed like everything we did went wrong. First, at the very beginning of the race, I picked up a wrench in the tire, and I had to come in and get it changed, and got down 27 seconds to my teammate. And then I was making that back up. I was going down the back straightaway, and the ignition switch came off, and it took me 20 seconds to figure out what was wrong with that. Then I was coming down through the S's, and they had that big crash, and I ran over some debris, and it wedged underneath the bottom of the car and picked the front wheels off the ground. And crew had to come by under and get me and get the body work out from underneath the car. And then when I tried to drive away, the gearbox was junk. So, I mean, it's one of them days where you can't do anything right.
Just didn't pay to get out of bed today, huh?
We should have stayed at home or in bed or someplace. But, you know, it's the Toyota team is still running strong with Juan, and hopefully he can win the race and bring us home that Camel Pyramid money.
Well, you can bet that P.J. Jones will be back.
We're getting ready to go back to green here at Watkins Glen International. Steve Millen has been airlifted by helicopter to a nearby hospital. He has a possible broken shoulder and perhaps a head injury, but he was conscious, alert, and talking with the rescue personnel as they helped remove him from his Nissan. Johnny O'Connell, who you saw climb from his car and then clamber over the guardrail, has a possibility of a whiplash injury, and he also is being treated. Brent O'Neill was okay. We are back to green. P.J. Jones' car in the garage area with transmission trouble. Juan Fangio at the head of the field.
Several cars coming onto pit lane for some sort of service. 4 or 5 cars ducked in right at the green flag there. One of them, Les Lindley, I think is the GTO leader, or was the GTO leader.
And the Nissan of Derek Bell coming in, getting tires. No service could have been done under the red flag, so the pits are full right now. Meanwhile, this man just sprints away from the field.
Well, it should be easy sailing right now for Juan Manuel Fangio. Momo Porsche, or actually it's not Momo Porsche anymore, it's a Momo Nissan nowadays in the pit getting service.
Right. Here is the Porsche of John Winter. He and Manuel Reuter, the two Germans in the Reinhold Jost car. Porsche used to come in here with a juggernaut of cars to Watkins Glen and each Camel GT race. Porsche sweeps occurring in this race in 1984. Porsche finished 1-2. In the second race in 1985, in 1986, in 1987 were all 1-2 finishes for Porsche. But as Porsche has withdrawn factory support, privateer teams like Jost, occasionally several other teams coming in and running on selected basis. The second place car, John Winter, Manfred Reuter on pit road in the Jost Racing Porsche. This will be a driver change. Tires and fuel. They are 1 lap behind Fangio's Toyota. Juan Fangio working heavy race traffic, awaiting his final pit stop. Let's go to Glenn Jarrett.
Well, Mike, they're ready right now. They were ready a while ago. Juan ran over something on the racetrack, felt the car bump and wiggle a little bit, thought maybe he had a tire going down, radioed in he needed to come in, but then it straightened up, so he went on by. Gurney told him to wait until after the Porsche pitted. That happened, so here he comes right now. This will be his final pit stop. This is a scheduled pit stop. They did want to wait until the Porsche pitted, so as Gurney put it, we wouldn't have to pass anybody. So right now they're putting the 4 tires, filling it up with the fuel. As I said, a regularly scheduled stop, everything going as planned. There is no problem with the car. They thought they had one, but no problem now. He is down and away.
Fangio leans it into gear and deliberately heads down the pit lane without any tire spin. Takes it back into the front. Is that car up to speed?
You know, it's hard to say in that picture. No, it doesn't look like accelerating very well. Nope, I think we have a problem there for Derek Bell. It's running on its own power, but it's definitely at reduced speed.
Yeah, Tommy Kendall goes flashing by as now it looks like Bell is just coasting.
Well, it's a tough break this far in the race to have a problem now, as well as that team's been running all day.
Little activity now in the Momo pits. Jean-Pierre Moretti, co-driver and the team owner, standing on the wall on the left side of your screen as they wait for Derek Bell to make it around.
Our other leader right there, Bob Shader, Bob Earl, Camel Light leader. And that is the leader in GTU. He just passed the Butch LEITZINGER machine.
All right, 97, just in front of the race leader. And our other class leader is Brian DeVries, and that Olds Cutlass is the GTO class leader.
So they're all there together, and they want Juan to pass them so they don't have to do one more lap. As long as he goes by, they can call it a day.
Yeah. Fangio through 9. There's a LEITZINGER Kurtz car right behind him. Shader ahead up to turn number 10.
If I was Shader, I'd be putting the brakes on saying, come on. I don't want to go around one more time.
At turn 11, and Jim Sidley reaches for the checkered flag, and Juan Fangio has three-peated at Watkins Glen as he crosses the line to win the Camel Continental for Dan Gurney's All-American Racers Team Toyota. Fangio started on the outside pole and continues Toyota's win streak, now tied for the longest in the history of Camel GT racing for consecutive victories by one make of car. Here's the Yost Porsche of John Winter. We'll be back with the Camel Continental on the Nashville Network right after these messages. Juan Fangio has three-peated at Watkins Glen. Let's get out of victory lane. Here's Glenn Jarrett.
Well, one of his rewards, Mike, was an ice cold bucket of water dumped on his head, but certainly no stranger to victory lane here. Another great day, Juan.
Oh, fantastic. Really, it was a great day. The car was working fantastic. I want to thank the full Toyota team, All-American Racer and TRD. Every time I jump into this machine, everything is working great.
All right, I noticed you must have had a little close call out there, a big tire mark on the left rear of the car back there.
Yes, that happened, say, on the left, right? That happened on the SS, and it was a close situation, but I was expecting that because it was a very heavy traffic during the full race, so things like that happen all the time. The thing is to keep going, that's it.
John Winter's team in the Porsche finishing second. The Chevy Spice of Hugh Fuller is third. Darren Brasfield's Oldsmobile is fourth. Tommy Kendall's Mustang finishes fifth today. Bob Shader and Bob Earl win the Camel Lights over Mike Sheehan, Derek Bell, and Jean-Pierre Moretti credited with 8th, Andy Evans 9th, and Les Lindley's Mustang 10th. Butch LEITZINGER and Chuck Kurtz win in GTU. Brian DeVries wins the GTO category. Bill Oberlin, Bob LEITZINGER, and Dan Osterholt. For Dorsey Schrader, Glenn Jarrett, and Randy Pemberton, I'm Mike Joy, congratulating Juan Fangio on his third straight victory at Watkins Glen.